calling up our next writer. Keiko Honda is a scientist, writer, community organizer, and painter. She's a recipient of the City of Vancouver's Remarkable Woman Award in 2014 and founded the Vancouver Arts Colloquium Society. Today, she reads from her debut memoir, Accidental Blooms, Keiko Honda. Keiko?
Thank you, JJ, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. When I was a research scientist in the field of cancer epidemiology back in New York, I was acutely aware how social support network impact cancer outcome and our health. But at the time, my understanding of social support network was limited to the way scholars conceptualize and construct them. And then when I was paralyzed, got into wheelchair at the age of 40, it was during this time I gained my first-hand experience with social support network, essentially conducting my deeply personal research. So I would like to read the section called Preschool, and this section captures my first experience of feeling a true sense of community and the moment of co-creation. Okay, let me wear the glasses. Preschool. I met Leslie Nang Haberman for the first time during a preschool admission interview at Montessori Preschool Family School West in Midtown Manhattan. I was seeking to arrange Maya's post-Barnard preschool and had sent application to 4 or 5 schools. Dan, Maya, and I went to the parent interview at Family School West together, and I was nervous, as if I were applying to university. I was definitely a first-time parent. At the beginning of the interview, Leslie noticed my wheelchair and asked what happened to me. It was rather abrupt, but not obtrusive. I sensed the compassion in her that hard to put into words. Once I answered, she shared with me her own health condition, associated pain, as if I were her close friend. The following day, I received email from Leslie. You glided through the room like a gazelle. You are a courageous young woman, and I know that one day you will be able to do all the things you wish to do. The love that you spread, just by being yourself, will help you to overcome all obstacles now in your path. I was incredibly moved. Her email was not only unexpected and touching, but also confirmed my daughter's admission and asked me to serve as a class parent. Without having to think, I said yes. Shortly after my discharge from the New York hospital, I felt I were a returning soldier who lost his limb in the war, but the miracle of being alive made me aware of how precious life was. I was gradually becoming more confident getting around the city in my electric wheelchair, and after Barnard, I felt like I was ready for the next step, just like Maya was. I felt encouraged and validated in Leslie's warm presence. I was still quite limited physically and learning to adapt, but she saw through my vulnerability and gently gave me back the confidence I needed. Who wouldn't be drawn to people who treat us this way? I was deeply touched. At Family School West, students were engaged in wide-ranging, stimulating curriculum, including foreign languages, songs, violin lessons, and cooking. Leslie gave me a permission to exercise my free spirit as a class parent and independent woman. That is how I interpreted and made coherent sense of her warm gesture, words, and expressions. One activity I helped organize was flower arrangement. How illuminating it is to expose pre-kindergarten children to flower arrangement. Although the two formed an unlikely combination in my initially limited mind, watching both together, the wondrous eyes of children and the colorful petals of flowers, drove me to creative action. I knew a little bit of ikebana, the Japanese art of flower arranging. But one day, the idea of recycling unsold, expired, but still beautiful flowers entered my mind. Within the radius of few blocks from Family School West, there were 4 stores selling fresh flowers. I went to each one and pitched my idea, and one of them said yes. My weekly pickup of huge bucket full of flowers and its delivery to Family School West began that day and continued for the rest of the school year. I soon realized that I had become a bit of a scene on the street in the middle of Manhattan, a huge bucket full of flowers resting on my lap as I pushed through foot traffic on a motorized wheelchair. It was not only heavy and hard to balance on my lap, but also tall, blocking my frontal view. So I had to tilt my head 90 degrees to drive. I was fearless, reckless, fast, and joyful. I must have looked comical, but I was frequently showered with warm cheers and encouragement on the street. I often stopped and chatted with strangers and was touched by their kindness. Passers-by were metaphorically and figuratively stopping to smell the roses, and so did I. I was aware of my surging sense of freedom, of being alive every day. And of course, the surprised and curious faces of children every time I enter the classroom with my colorful cargo were priceless. Family School West teachers were always grateful for and creative with my quote-unquote catch of the day. Once in December, I brought a bunch of bare tree branches, all that was available, wondering if they were usable. The moment they saw the branches, which looked as if I had collected them from a wild winter forest, the teacher broke into big smiles. We can use this for learning about seasons. The ladies at the flower store became familiar faces at the end of semester. We gave them a certificate of appreciation that students made and some poppy and small bouquet of dried flowers that they had created from the donated flowers, which made them tear up. One day, a young woman I knew before my diagnosis told me, out of curiosity and good intentions, that she would be frightened to travel outside on her own if she were wheelchair-bound, and that I was very brave. I smiled and replied, I used to think that way too. At that moment, I realized how much I had changed my sense of self. I no longer felt that able-bodied people were invested with a superior sense of self. I felt I had witnessed my entire neighborhood become one living organism. Local cafe staff on my commute up 9th Avenue started exchanging morning smiles and afternoon waves with me every time I zipped past them. Even on the day I wasn't delivering flowers. People were giving me a big thumbs up, saluting my park ranger hat and leather boots, which I wore every day, even during the summer. Love your boots, they sometimes shouted. Thanks. In Hell's Kitchen, I was stopped by strangers 8 or 9 times a day on average. They would ask me if I needed any help, even when I was simply waiting for a traffic light to change. Everyone became my peer. All my intention within my community brought me a sense of safety, trust, and inclusion. The compassion of Leslie and other friends and strangers, their simple act of kindness was key to building a new community. But they also changed the way I saw myself in the wheelchair and how I understood my new identity. They helped provide a sense of freedom from my previously held stigma about disability. I was affirmed, nourished, and liberated. And the community forming around me also changed. We are also transformed. My neighborhood was somehow becoming an extension of myself. I think of Leslie as a kind of universal role model. She was carefully observant, stood strong among friends and colleagues, and brought me in to be nurtured slowly. I began, quote-unquote, standing with them too. Leslie reminded me of one of the most beautiful Japanese expressions, yorisou, to snuggle up with someone or stay close. But it carries more than physical meaning, implying acting together in solidarity, connecting with people's lives and hearts, coexisting harmoniously. It is about symbiosis, understanding, empathy, and a community glue because of this. If I ever encounter conflict again, I would remember to flex my yorisou muscles. Thank you so much.